something basically changed on your credit profile. Now the bank, specifically FNBO, is saying, wait a second, we gave you the $25,000 credit card limit under basically these circumstances because your credit profile looked a certain way. Now all of a sudden, we're seeing a whole bunch of max credit cards on your credit reports. We're seeing some late start to pop up. Nope. We're going to slash your credit limit. So now that $25,000 credit limit is now $5,000. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. All right, on the screen, I have a question that was posted by my guy, Leon. Great question. I think this was going to be a good learning lesson. So what did he say? He said, my situation with Navy Federal said my max credit limit has been reached, right? Notice this is not the same thing as maxing out your credit card. So he says, I applied for a new credit card and was denied for that one reason. And I told you guys, there are some things that FICO is looking for, just one little thing that may cause a bank to deny your application or your credit limit increase, right? Your request for it. I did pre-qualify and it stated that I got approved for all cards, TransUnion 638, Equifax 674. We talked about before how pre-qualifications, how they're not 100%. They look for certain things on your credit profile. And if you meet those certain things, you're going to get pre-qualified. But when you do your full application, they do a hard pull. It changes the entire story, right? It changes how they're going to decide whether or not they're going to approve you or not. Because we mentioned before, your 3-digit FICO score, that's a good thing to have. Everybody wants a good 3-digit FICO score, but that's not the end all be all. And guys, I don't know if you remember, but I told you guys an example of a woman who had over 800 credit score on all 3 of her credit bureaus, and she was denied. And for that particular reason, it was because on the credit cards that she had already, she had too much available balances sitting on her credit cards, and the next bank did not want to approve her for the credit card. Okay, so on this episode, I'm going to break down this specific question, so stay tuned. All right, so now let's look at this. So we're going to talk about first the credit limit increase cycle. We tell you guys to get a secured card. Even if you guys end up getting a low limit unsecured card, that's cool. The next thing people tell you to do is pay on time, keep the balances low, nurture the relationship with the bank. For Navy Federal specifically, we know they have their internal score that goes to 450. Again, this is what the cycle normally looks like. For Navy Federal, we know about the 91-3. So 91 days or 3 billing cycles, that's when you can go back and ask for another credit limit increase. Most other banks, around 6 to 8 months. That's usually when you want to start asking for your credit limit increases, around 6 months. But can you do this indefinitely? So for most of us, we're going to hit a limit. There's going to be a limit to where the bank is going to look at you, your credit profile, the relationship with them, and they're going to have a predetermined limit of, you know what, I can only give you 5,000, even if you have a good 3-digit FICO score. So if you're somebody that bought 2 or 3 authorized users to put on your credit profile, your 3-digit FICO score is 740, you're doing all these things to manipulate your 3-digit FICO, that's still not going to change the fact that the bank is still going to look at certain things and they're going to determine, you know what, this is going to be your limit. And no matter what your 3-digit FICO score is, we're not going to give you a credit limit higher than this specific number. All right, so let's look at that. There's something specifically called credit exposure. And in layman's terms, that's just the amount a lender is willing to risk giving you money. We talked about different frauds. We talked about people running off on the plug. We talked about a whole bunch of different things that's causing the bank to really look in and determine, can I give this person a $10,000 credit limit? Can I give this person a $20,000 credit limit? Should I only give them $5,000 credit limit? So what are the things that's going to determine or impact how risky we are in the eyes of a lender? So DTI, your debt to income ratio. So the example I like to give is if I have a $40,000 salary, but on my $40,000 salary, I have 2 Mercedes-Benz trucks that I'm financing right now. I got a brand new mortgage. I have several credit cards already that I'm trying to pay down. So one of the things that the bank is going to look at is, hey, you have income, but you got like so much debt that it's weighing you down. So you're looking too risky right now. If anything happens to your job, if anything happens and you or your spouse gets ill and all those debt just, takes you over, we can't give you 10K, 20K credit limit because I don't think you're going to be able to pay us back, right? So your debt to income is always going to be a factor. People are telling you the amount to put down on your credit card applications, right? They want to say, all right, for Amex, put 74,000, not 75, but 74, or for this bank, put 120,000. This is something that gets discussed a lot in a lot of these credit rooms and forums and mentorships, right? It's because of this reason. Your DTI is going to play an important role. We know with Navy Federal, they have their own internal system that goes up to 450. And we know at this point, or hopefully we know at this point, the things that we can do to increase that score is, getting the pledge loan, getting credit cards, having a checking and savings account, probably getting on direct deposit, allowing that to happen over a period of time. And then the bank slowly but surely, they trust you more. They realize who you are. They're analyzing your spending habits. They're analyzing how you're able to pay. And then over time, people are getting high credit limits. But if you notice, if you look at any of the comments on any of my Navy Federal videos, you'll see a lot of people saying, yeah, I got a 20K credit limit. I had these 4 or 5 accounts with Navy Federal. I've been with them for several years and I got a high credit limit. Just know when you see that there is a correlation between how you're, nurturing the relationship and the amounts and the type of credit products that you can get with an institution. So let's talk about bust out credit card fraud. So I gave this as an example a month ago when I told you about the guy that was in the swimming pool. He had the watch and he was telling you guys to, swipe on the credit cards, get these high ticket items, don't pay the credit cards back, cash out, right? And try to do it again with another bank. This right here is the reason why a lot of these banks are putting a limit, an exposure limit or a risk limit on certain customers because they know people do this, right? So now let's look at this. What is the bust out credit card fraud? So step 1, open multiple accounts with fake identities. Step 2, you build a normal credit history. Now this is something typically that we advocate for. Build normal credit history. Swipe, 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 pay down. Swipe, 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 pay down. Do that over time. The bank slowly but surely is going to be like, okay, I know this guy. He always pays, on the first of the month. He usually pays down his entire balance or most of it. Okay, cool. The algorithm is actually paying attention to your spending habits and when you pay off your debt. So you can see when people are trying to defraud the bank, they start off doing the things that are actually legit to do, right? Use up all available credit. So again, this might take 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, but they work the relationship with the bank. They start getting high credit limits, right, over time. They're going to use up all of their available credit, and then they're going to request a high credit limit from the bank saying, hey, I've been with you guys for X amount of months or X amount of years. I need a credit limit up to, 25,000 or 30,000. And depending on all the factors that we talked about, the bank could say, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll trust you. Here's your $30,000 credit limit. Now for the scammers, once they get that credit limit increase, that's usually when they swipe, get their Rolex, get their high ticket items, sell it, and then run off on the bank, right? This right here is called bust out credit card fraud. And this is the reason why even if you have a good 3-digit FICO score, even if you don't have a lot of blemishes on your credit profile, this is the reason why banks are trying to go slow and steady, because if they're giving people 30, 40, 50,000 credit limits, they're going to be exposed. They're too exposed. So if everybody decides to run off on the plug, that's bad for the bank, right? So this is the process when people do it on the negative way. But at the same time, you can understand when I'm telling you guys to build a relationship, keep your utilization low to show the psychology that you have the money, you don't need the money, you're a responsible borrower. These spending habits is what builds trust with the bank. This is how people are able to get multiple 6 figures in funding across multiple institutions. What's an example of the bank being scared? Now guys, let me know if this happened to you, whether it's happened to you or somebody that you know, that they applied for an American Express charge card. Now, with the charge cards, there's no preset spending limit. It's not like a revolving credit card that tells you, all right, you have a $5,000 credit limit. For charge cards, you don't have that predefined spending limit. So what happened with some people is, if you go into your American Express account, you can actually check the spending limit on your charge card. And that information is what's going to tell you how much you can realistically spend on your charge card without the bank denying the transaction. There have been many people that have been trying to check their spending limit on their charge card multiple times, and that activity by itself caused a financial review with American Express. And guys, if you don't know what the financial review is from a company like Amex, that's basically when they say timeout, they pause the account and they say, okay, your spending patterns or something that you've been doing is causing a red flag. Before we allow you to continue to spend, we need you to pay down the balance, and or we need you to provide additional documentation about your income, because something that you're doing is causing us to feel like you might try to run off on the plug. But this right here is an example of a bank saying, we're scared about our exposure. We need to be a little bit conservative. Timeout, financial review time. Another example we talked about on this channel was FNBO. So a lot of people got excited. I think this was probably last year. People were getting high credit limits, 15,000, 20,000 on their personal FNBO credit cards. But you guys have to also pay attention to the fact that these banks are also paying attention to how you are doing relationships with other banks. So if you went to FNBO, you went to their website, you did the pre-qual, you got approved for the 15, 20, 25,000. But let's say over time, your other credit cards that you have, the utilization is getting higher and higher and higher, right? Some of them are starting to get maxed, or maybe one or two late payments just hopped onto your credit profile. Something basically changed on your credit profile. Now the bank, specifically FNBO, is saying, wait a second, we gave you the $25,000 credit card limit under basically these circumstances because your credit profile looked a certain way. Now all of a sudden, we're seeing a whole bunch of max credit cards on your credit reports. We're seeing some late start to pop up. Nope. We're going to slash your credit limit. So now that $25,000 credit limit is now $5,000. So why did that happen? It's that risk and that credit exposure. They're trying to basically figure out, even in real time. So it's not like you can do it one time, do the application, get the credit card, and just do whatever you want going forward. They're going to continually monitor how you do relationship business with them as well as the other banks. All right, so what is the moral of the story here, right? Well, the first thing is something that we already talked about. Your 3-digit FICO score is not the end-all, be-all. The 3-digit FICO score is good. It's going to naturally increase over time as long as we're doing the necessary things to support our credit profile. Number two, when we're telling you guys to build the relationship with the bank, that's one of the best things that you can do. So when we're studying how people are doing fraud, what are they doing before they're getting the high credit card limits and running off on the plug? They're building their relationship. That's all they're doing. They're building their relationship. And that's the part that we need to model. Not the running off on the plug part, but the building the relationship part. That's what's going to get you those high credit limits. So what I would tell Leon is continue to do what you already been doing, which is continue to build a relationship with Navy Federal. You already have a couple of credit card products with them right now. Even if the limits are relatively low, that's still fine. You're still building the relationship. But what I would recommend him to do is go back to Navy Federal and do a couple of the Navy Federal pledge loan hacks. But go to my channel, watch the video that I did on the Navy Federal pledge loan hack. That's going to be an incredible way how you can use your own money with very, very small amounts of interest that you got to pay. It's going to build a relationship. It's going to add credit mix to your personal credit profile. It's going to increase the internal rating with Navy Federal. And the next time you go back and ask for the credit limit increase, hopefully the response is not going to be that you reached the maximum credit limit or maximum exposure, but hopefully we can start turning these, $2,200 credit cards that you have to possibly $6,000, if not higher. That's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you understood credit exposure, credit risk, nurturing relationships, bust out credit card fraud, all these terms that we've been using. Hopefully you guys can see now when we do examples like this, and I show you guys the example of bust out credit card fraud, that this is not just theoretical stuff that we're just making videos about. These are real life things that are impacting how you can get approved for higher credit card limits, right? Guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Go down in the comments, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Make sure to share this video if you found it helpful. Go and post it on your Facebook feeds. And aside from that, guys, I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Peace.